it was just more or less seeing all these people pass away and stories not getting told. And, you know, I'm talking to Padula. He's telling me all these stories. I'm like, dude, these stories got to get out to people. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
oh, yeah.
Nobody's going to hear this stuff once you guys are gone. So why not get them out there, you know?
And once it's gone for good. That's it, you know?
Right. And
You know?
Primal's, I mean, it's a small thing, but they had such a following. And I mean, it's small, but diehard, you know?
Right.
So I think it's a good story, the way it rose and died. And
yeah.
And I was going to put the footage out there because apparently I have the most footage of anybody from what I'm finding out, because nobody has footage of it.
Oh, that's incredible, because, you know, every now and then, like some of the videos we even put out of myself and everything, I haven't seen in 25, 30 years.
Right.
You know, and that's, I'm like, I don't remember doing that match at all. And then, wait a minute. Yeah, okay. I do remember that match, you know, and I say to myself, wow, this is actually cool. And you're right. It gives it, you know, the people who, you know, love wrestling and adore, you know, the times that we had and stuff like that, realize that the work that we put into it is something that, you know, is a kind of a dying art today, because, you know, and I've always said it back then, it doesn't take any talent to whack somebody in the head with a friggin' chair, you know, with the time in a lock, you know, a headlock and stuff like that, and work a couple of angles in and everything, is something that kids today that get into the wrestling business don't know how to do. Some of them do. Some of them came up with a lot of good creative moves and everything. And, you know, it's still, you know, not like it was back in the day where there was, you know, a heel and a baby face. You know, now it's all gray. It's all down the middle, you know. So,
yeah.
And, you know, I said there was, I always said, even working, you know, for Vince, there was too much titting ass shown on TV and less wrestling, actual wrestling. You know, back in the day when I was a little kid and I first saw wrestling with my father down at, and my mother down at Jack Witchy's, North Attleboro, seeing Bruno Sammartino, Killer Kowalski, you know, Blackjack Mulligan, Haystack Calhoun, Andre the Giant, you know, seeing those guys wrestle that day, they would go 15, 20 minutes. You know, today matches are done in 7 to 14 minutes, and more of it's talking and less wrestling. Doesn't tell a story anymore. I was trained by Killer Kowalski. He always told me, he says, you know, make them notice you, and tell a story, but make them notice you. And that's how you become a successful wrestler. You know, that's, you know, that your first show could be your first and it could be your last. And the more people either hate you or the more people that love you are the ones that are going to keep you booked. You know, it's not an easy road out there. It's definitely not tennis. You know, you know, people get hurt every single day and they don't realize it too. That, you know, I've got 3 fused discs in my neck. Hyperextended both of my knees. Broke my palate. Scars up here, things like that. It's not an easy living, you know, but it was fun. And it's something I'll never forget or regret. You know?
I agree. I'm an old school fan. I'm not quite as old as you. I just turned 50, but I've been watching since back then, a little less than you. I grew up, you know, Snooker and Ray Stevens and
and those are the guys
Morocco
and I worked with all those guys too, you know, and you know, they were great guys to work with, and you know, and you know, you had to we were more like a family. You know, being on the road as much as we have been on the road, traveling from state to state to state and everything, and living out of a suitcase and out of a hotel, you know, that becomes your family. You know, so you have to look out for the next guy, and he has to look out for you, because when you get hurt, you lose a gig. You know, and you know, it's quite an experience. You get to see a lot of places around the world, all for free. But you're there for a short period of time, then you're gone the next minute. You don't get to stroll through Paris or Berlin or whatever, you know. You're there for that night, you're going in the morning, you know. Sometimes that's the way it works. But so you had some questions you want to ask me?
Yeah. Well, touching on what you were just saying, I'd love to sometime, if you ever have time, do a career interview with you, like go through your career. I mean, that'd take more time than this, but not today, but some other time.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm touching on now. I'm setting up with Padula, Jose. I just did one with Joe Bruin. This is a Primal thing I'm doing, but that's something else I'm doing on the side too with wrestlers, setting them up.
Well, you know, when I first got into this business, I was in a towing industry. I had connections already with Vince through a friend of mine who used to drive all their equipment around, tractor trailers. Well, every time he came to Providence, he would park his truck and his tractor trailer at my place. Rhode Island got caught in the banking crisis, and they shut everything down, which basically was the downfall of my business. It put my business right out of business, and I says, "Fuck it, I'm going to join the circus." I already had connections with Vince, and so I gave him a phone call, and I says, "Hey Vince, I'm not fixing trucks anymore. I want to be a pro wrestler." He says, "No, you don't want to be a wrestler." He says, "Come down. I'll give you a job. You can take care of my fleet down in Stanford and everything." And I said, "No, Vince, I really want to be a wrestler." He says, "No, I'm pretty big in size, and I'm in good shape, and so I met with him down in Stanford and Macho Man down there, and we talked all back and forth, and they wanted me to get some training under my belt because I was working. I started doing the NEWA gigs, stuff like that and everything. So he says to me, he says, "Well, let's see how you do." So he gave me a check for $1,740. He says, "Go see a guy in Malden, Mass. named Kowalski. He'll teach you how to wrestle. He says, if you can survive his training, I'll give you a job. I'll put you in the circuit." So I'm saying to myself, survive? I'm a fucking Marine. I went to the best school in the country, which is Paris Island. So if you can survive that, I'm thinking about what is he talking about? So anyway, so I took the money and I left, and I drove up to see him. And I met Walter and things like that. I was like, wow, last time I saw him, I was a kid. He was always a big guy then. So I started going through the school, and I said, holy shit, this ain't a joke. This is serious stuff. And I can remember crawling out of that place, driving all the way back to fucking Providence, then going back the next night, and then going back the next night, every single day, back and forth to Malden. So Walter had got a phone call from Vince to ask how I was doing, and said, I think he's ready. He gave me a letter that, under my teachings, he's qualified to be a pro wrestler in the World Wrestling Federation, blah, 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 and all that other stuff. I got my license in New Hampshire because Rhode Island was so bullshit to try to get a professional license. I got it in New Hampshire, and I had it there ever since. And then from there, that's how I started, man. It was one gig right after the other.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't know all that about you.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of people think it's I don't like to criticize anybody who gets into this business. Only for the love of the sport. I mean, I think that anybody who wants to get in this business, one is either fucking crazy, or two, they're really passionate and they want to get into it and they want to really see what it's like. Because in this pro wrestling business, it's just like any other competitive athlete in the world. There's no retirement plan, no 401, there's no health care. Pay your own taxes. You get 1099s from every single state that you're in. You're an accountant's nightmare. Why would anybody want to do this? But you do it because you love to do it, and after a while, after years of doing it, it becomes kind of monotonous. And, I decided a while ago that this was my last match, and that was it. I just had enough. I still had my health, and I'm still in great shape now, and I wanted to keep it that way. Some of these guys that get into this business are that's all they know. They don't have anything to fall back on. I had something to fall back on. I had my own, I got a business, degree, and I own my own company now. And, I had something to fall back on. But some of these guys, like, if you ever watched that movie, The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, that's a real, true fucking story of how some of these guys actually live. And, a prime example is somebody like Tony Atlas. Tony's a great, great guy, wonderful wrestler, very nice guy to work with. He's going through some tough times, and it's not easy. But then again, that may be the only thing that man has ever known, which was professional wrestling. He might have done it for 30, 40 friggin' years. And they don't have anything to fall back on. And then they fall on hard times, and then, things happen. There's a lot of wrestlers that like that. Where there's nothing that Vince could do to help these guys out. They're pretty much done. Now, Walter Kowalski, after he was done professionally wrestling, he opened his own school. That kept him going for X amount of years. Was he living a life of a king? No. But there's a lot of things that people don't see that guys like myself go through. Yeah, we go down the street and everything, and people turn around and say, hey, can I have your autograph? Hey, can I shake your hand? Hey, can I take a picture with you? I never say no to that, because these people had the decency to remember me for what I accomplished in wrestling, and that's the best thing I can do is to pay them back and show them respect that they showed me in the business. Some guys get aggravated. Oh, get away from me! I don't want to picture. I can't do that. I can't do that. So I mean, people that love the sport so much admire what we did. I mean, I was hated in the ring. People fucking hated me. The more shit people threw at me, the more I liked it. It was a compliment,
Right.
And then, I would never be the type of wrestler somebody like New Jack was. And I'll say it right out, and I don't care. I thought it was a piece of shit. People might not like that, but you know what? That's the way it is. That's not wrestling what he did. But then again, I don't want to keep criticizing somebody else's work, but it is what it is. What he did to Eric Koulos, I was there when that happened.
Oh, you were?
Oh yeah, I was there.
Were you in the crowd or backstage?
I was sitting in the press box when I saw that, and I knew that he was going to do that to him. I saw a recent documentary on biography, I think, where they showed all the wrestlers like Benoit and Owen Hart, and I was there when Owen Hart passed away too. I could listen. That was horrific. I was sitting there and I said I couldn't believe. I knew that Jack was gonna give this kid a beating, and I was totally appalled by it. The biggest mistake I think that was made was the people from ECW didn't verify that kid's age. They should have never allowed him in the ring without some kind of proof. I don't know if he signed any waivers or anything like that, but Eric was a good kid. Was he green? Oh my God, he was so green. He was not a professional wrestler. I would have never let somebody like New Jack do that to me. And anybody else who was, been around for a while would let them do that. You don't have somebody do that. I mean, pull out a goddamn knife out of your pants and cut somebody's head open like a fucking fish. That's wrong. That's not wrestling. That's the point I'm trying to make. What they did and what they do back then was wrong. It's not professional wrestling. Anybody can do that. You can do that. The guy next door can do that. The guy down the street can do that. If you allow it, then people will keep doing it. Did ECW have a great following? Yes, they did. The people like blood and gore and stuff like that and everything, and that's cool. That's their thing. But that doesn't take away from the talent that guys like myself, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Owen Hart, Bret Hart, and so on and so forth, Undertaker, and all these other guys that have been around, have learned how to tell a story in a ring. Nobody knows how to do that today. You just go in there and start smashing people with fucking chairs, and there's no wrestling involved.
If there's a feud and story built up to it, like the like Tully the cage match, the I Quit Tully Magnum cage match, like that's you know what I mean? There's a place for it when it's like that.
Yeah, well, here's an example of what I try to say. If you know that you're going to a match, say that's run by ECW, and you know that there's going to be nothing but chairs, tables, and things like that, it's not spectacular anymore, because you're in your mind, you're going to see that because that's what you come to see. But if you do something like that that hasn't been done in a few years, people are like, wow, holy shit, did you see what he did? They threw him to a table. Or he smashed his head on the post and he got cut open. But when you see it every single night, it doesn't become a surprise anymore. It's kind of like expected. And that's the sad part about it. These guys walk around with scars on their head. They're there for the rest of their goddamn life. Wrestling does not last forever, especially workers in the business. You think about this, every professional athlete out there, from wrestling, hockey, football, tennis, baseball, whatever, the average span of somebody in that professional field is good between 10, 15 years. Anybody else who's in the top 1%, like Undertaker, Stone Cold, they may get 15, 20 years out of the business. But after it's over, they walk around those scars on their head for the rest of their life. Is it worth it? I don't think so. I don't think so.
And if it is, it only is if you make it to the top. If you're not on the top, it definitely isn't.
Yeah, but even after the top, the fastest, let me tell you something. The quicker you run to that top of that ladder, you can fall just as fast.
Oh, and the more people are after you.
You're climbing up that ladder, and you're stepping on everybody's hands up that ladder. You're going to see them again on the way back down. Yeah. And they're going to remember that. That's how you, these guys, they end up getting paid back, and, stuff like that. I mean, some guys are backstabbers. They'll cut your fucking throat in a heartbeat. There's other guys that are genuine. And one of the best people that was my mentor in the wrestling business, believe it or not, was Lou Albano. Lou Albano was a very, very good friend of mine. So was Tony Garea. Tony Garea came to my house one year for Thanksgiving. I even sold him a pickup truck. He wanted my pickup truck. For what? I don't know. He said, "Oh, brother, I want to buy that truck off you so much." I said, "What do you want, Tony?" I'm like, "Wait, give me $1,000 for the damn thing." All right, okay, here you go. There you go, kid. He takes the truck, he drives all the way back to Connecticut where it was from. But Lou Albano was the guy that he kept me out of all shit business. Kept me away from the drugs, kept me away from the steroids, kept me away from the women, this, that, the whole nine yards, And God rest his soul. He was probably one of the last guys that had a true passion for wrestling. Sadly missed. But
he was definitely over, that's for sure. When I was a kid, man, I hated Lou Albano. I was out there. Albano's a fat slob. I'm sorry, but when I was 8 years old, that was the first sign I brought to a wrestling event.
He would turn around.
Probably more like 10 or 12, but Snooker, during the Snooker feud, man, nobody's been over since Jimmy Snooker.
Yeah.
I don't even think Hogan was over as much as Snooker.
Yeah. Louis was the type of person who was like, all right, Ray, go get your money. They're paying you now. Wait, this can wait. Go get your money. Make sure you get paid now, and make sure you get your stuff out of the locker room before somebody steals it, or lock it up and everything, And he was he looked out for me, but he was and he looked out for a lot of other people, not just me and him. But till this day, they still remember him tied in with Cyndi Lauper. And it was only a one-time gig. But, you know, you think about it, people still talk about that video and everything. So he must have set an impression that people have in their heads that are lasting all this time. And that's what I try to say to everybody who's in the business. And just like I said before at the beginning of this interview, what Walter Kowalski said to me was, make people notice you, you know, and you'll have your next job after that. You'll keep going on and you make a career. And he was right. And people still to this day, from that one incident that he did with Cyndi Lauper, they're still talking about it today. So that's kind of
well, that's what blew it up, right? And wasn't he the tie-in? Wasn't he the whole tie-in with MTV and Cyndi Lauper with the WWF? He's the one that made the crossover, I think.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for him, none of that may not have happened. The Water Sell the Score and the whole, I think him being in that video is what made that relationship happen, from what I heard.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Him and the elastics in his face. Everybody's like, the guy with the elastics in his face. You know, that got him. As silly as that was, everybody remembers that. It's like George Amos still with the hair on his back. The guy with the hair on his back. Even a non-wrestling fan remembers that.
Yep. And people,
my grandmother never watched wrestling, but she remembers that. You know what I mean?
When it's funny you should mention George Steele. When I first time I met him, I said, George, I got a question to ask you. He says, are you going to ask me about how my fucking tongue gets green all the time? I says, how'd you know? It's just because that's the first thing people say to me every time they fucking see me. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out this green bag of fucking Kool-Aid, which was, I think, a nickel back then. And used to tear the little bag open and put it in, put all the sugar in it, and everything, put the water in it. And that's how everybody drank Kool-Aid back then. And it was pretty ironic that he had that on him, and he knows that. Like I said, something like that, something simple like that, people remember him for doing. And that's something that, that's lasted his lifetime. A simple bag of Kool-Aid made him that famous.
Nobody does it today. Everybody wants to do 16 flips and big entrance. Everybody's got the big entrance, so big entrance don't stand out. You know what would stand out? Walking out with no music, silent, with your head down. Everybody goes, why is that guy walking out doing nothing? You know what I mean? It probably stand out.
Oh, yeah. Well, I went to, when I got drafted to WWF, I was still in school with Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque, before he was married to Stephanie, and Chyna. We were all in the same school,
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I remember he won his first title at my high school. He beat Moondog Rashad.
Moondog.
That's my high school, Middleborough High.
Yeah.
I got that on tape. I got that match on my YouTube. Yeah, oh yeah.
Terrorizing, yeah.
Oh yeah. It's on my YouTube, that match.
No kidding. So he got drafted to WCW, and then we got drafted, me and Chyna got drafted to WWF. And then Perry Saturn went what's his name? Oh, John.
Kronus,
yeah. They went to the ECW and everything, so and Perry was.
They went to Memphis first, right?
That's right. Smoky Mountain, yes, that's right. Yeah, yep. Jim Cornette's road. Yep. So that was.
They were for Rumble for a little bit, weren't they? As
they
wore the shoulder pads and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, they were good. John Kronus was a good guy. Perry Saturn, another good guy. I mean, basically everybody I went to school was great. We all had built a bond of alumni, with the IWF and everything, So I didn't get a chance to go to that. My father had passed away, and so it was kind of like taking a sabbatical from everything, And Brittany Brown had asked me to go, and I couldn't make it, and I kind of felt bad and everything, but it is what it is, There's a lot of good memories, and we're just touching briefly on them. I got fucking millions of them in my head.
I know we're kind of getting onto your career here, not the Primal, which is fine.
Okay, all right, okay.
I want to do both. I kind of want to do your career. I kind of want to do promo. So I'm not stopping you. I'm kind of going with it.
Yep. Okay.
But I don't know how much time you got today, so
yeah.
I don't know what you'd rather do. Do your career now and do the Primal later?
Doesn't matter.
Primal now and do your career later?
Whatever you want to tell me. It's your show. No, you ask me the questions.
I want to do them both, so I wasn't stopping you. You were telling good stuff, so I was like, I'm just letting you roll with it.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had all this not information, so I'm like, he's talking about New Jack, he's talking about Bruno Sammartino. I love the old school stuff, so I'll never stop that.
Oh yeah.
I'm not into. Surprisingly, I do follow the new stuff, but not new stuff. I don't follow new WWF or anything, but the Primal and stuff. But I'm old school, man. I grew up on the Von Erichs and the Freebirds and Tommy Rich, Buzz Sawyer. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh yeah.
A little newer than you, but that stuff, you know.
Yep. Okay.
So you start bringing up Snooker and Morocco, and you told me you've wrestled Morocco and them. I'm like, yeah. Just so you know, when we do this, you're seeing me here and you here. When we talk, it edits your full screen when you talk. I'm full screen when I talk.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So when you're talking, I try to say as little as possible. I'm not going to say little words. I try to be as silent as I can, so it stays on you. So rather than be like, okay, little things, I try to keep my mouth shut as much as possible.
Yep.
And little things like this, I'll just edit out in the editing. Yeah. So let's do the Primal, and we'll get back to your career, I guess. I'd love to do this another time and go right through your career, but the way you're talking, we'll be here for. We'll probably have to do it in 2 or 3 settings, like a couple hours each time or something.
The best, like I said, Sundays is kind of like my office day. I'm in for a little while, I'm out for a little while, and so I mean, if we do this, we do it on a Sunday. That's fine.
Okay. And we could pick away at it like an hour.
Pick a little bit. A little bit. That I can tell you stories about what we did on the road and what we've done in hotels and stuff like that, bars and all that shit and everything.
Yeah, I'd love to hear the stories.
All the stories I did with the barroom brawls and the acolytes and stuff like that. I got hours and hours of good stuff.
Wow, I'd love it.
My head, so
I love it, man. Like I said, I want to preserve this stuff and have it there for after people are gone, or a lot of people forget shit. I mean, I'm not saying you, but the chair shots, people, they might remember something today, and in 2 years, you might not remember. Look at Terry Funk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tell his stories 5 years ago, and another 2 years, he might not remember that shit.
Sure.
Get that shit documented, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's you're hitting the nail right on the head. I mean, who knows what condition, we're all going to be in the next 10 years.
Right. Nobody in particular. I'm just saying overall. So I'm trying to get as much on record as I can, like, especially guys like you. Like, I might know it, and the local guys, but say somebody elsewhere might not, and putting it on like the internet. My thing's been picking up some good steam lately.
Good.
And that's why I've been showing. I know the girl stuff's on there a lot, but man, that's getting the views. So it's getting more. I started out just local stuff. I was just going to put local stuff up, my recorded stuff. And then I started putting up random stuff, and it started getting more subscribers and more views. So now I mix in the local stuff. It's getting a lot more eyes on the local stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So now I put an interview like this on rather than 75 or 100 locals that already know who you are seeing it. There's going to be, 2,000 people seeing it from all over.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So I'm expanding, and the girl stuff is getting like 1,000 views per video rather than like 75 for my local stuff.
Yep.
So it's bumping up the page, bumping up the subscribers. And now when I put out my exclusive stuff like this, it's getting way more views than it would have before. Yeah. So there's method behind my madness of putting out all this girl videos on there.
Absolutely.
Not that I mind it, but I wouldn't put up so many if it wasn't for that.
Yep.
But let's start on this Primal stuff, and we'll get back to because I could talk to you all day and night on your career and these stories, but we'll chip away at that.
Yeah.
And he says he's interested, but it's just us getting in contact. Everybody, I've been bugging everybody. I got like 50 people doing this. Like everybody's doing it.
Like I said, the best time to get me is on a Sunday. And I've got plenty of time on Sunday,
Oh, cool.
Either in the morning or whatever, So.
All right. Well, we'll do this, and then we'll chip away at your career, because I know we'll have a lot to chip on your career. You have a lot of good stories, and I could talk to you all day about the old timers in the 80s, late 70s and 80s.
Let me just add this. This is how well I was known in the amateurs. I mean, when I first started, I needed a pair of boots. I didn't have a pair of boots, and my first pair of boots was given to me by Hulk Hogan.
Really?
When he made the movie No Holds Barred.
The movie, The Match.
Yes, they had the blue on and white shorts and a white pair of boots. Well, those white boots, I still have more than once.
Wow.
And I wore those through my amateur career.
Wasn't it Ripped?
Ripped. And his name is still in them boots to this day.
Wow.
WWF is looking to buy old memorabilia back. I don't know if I want to sell them. But
yeah, they just did that show where they're going around looking for stuff.
Yeah, I would probably consider donating them on loan where they're still mine, but they can still show them.
Yeah, they do that too.
I would consider. I don't need the money for it.
They actually did to my buddy Roger Sherrod there that lives in Wareham. They went to his house on that show.
Oh, did they really? Yeah.
Yeah, they got they get something from the Honky Tonk Man or something from him.
Yeah,
he's got a whole basement of memorabilia.
I guess there's a lot of Undertaker stuff out there that people are going nuts for, and they're getting, giving big money away. Shit, if I'd have fucking known, I would have robbed the whole goddamn locker room and saved it all. Yeah, those are fun days.
So yeah, that show you debuted. Any memories of the Pitbulls or Kronus on that show? Had you met them before that?
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, like I said, I went to school with them in Kowalski's, Kronus and Saturn, and we all graduated the same year, and they went to WCW, I went to WWF with Chyna, and Paul Levesque went to WCW. As what was his name at WCW?
Terrorizing?
No, that was his IWF.
He was terrorizing.
What was his name?
He was terrorizing at first, and then he changed it to Paul Levesque, John Paul Levesque.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, he was terrorizing at first, and then he changed it to the Blue Blood John Paul Levesque, I think Levesque or something.
Well, if you want to talk about anybody that really stepped in shit, it was him. I mean, he was dating Chyna for a little while, and I guess that didn't work out. And he jumped ship, and he hooked up with Stephanie, and God bless him. He did well for himself. He's a great guy. Nothing bad to say about him. We had great fun in IWF and on the local circuit for Walter Kowalski, and he was, he did well. Good for him. Happy for him.
Yeah, they say he put his time in and he worked hard. Like he's nonstop work.
No, not everybody that gets into this business is going to make a lot of money. Not a lot of these people that get into this business might not make any money. But it's very hard to, it takes years to get to a level of recognition and talent as well. You get out of it what you put into it. If you don't put anything in it, you're not going to get anything out of it. It's a lot of hard work. Definitely hard work. So there was a bunch of guys over there that they came in and didn't stick with it. Just like the surprise to me was, like I said, if you can survive training, Walter, I'm saying to myself, fine, let's see what this is all about. And boy, it was no joke and everything. And it made it made you wake up quick, So, I mean, you go home and your back is killing you, knees killing you. You're thrown out of the ring, and you're slammed on the ground. I mean, the ring that Walter had inside the school was nothing like the ring that Vince uses. This was a regular boxing ring. If you got thrown on that, boy, you fucking felt it. But then again, you learned how to protect yourself too. Which made it a lot easier to do. And if it pissed Walter off, he'd make you carry buckets of fucking water up and down the stairs. And there was like 36 stairs, running up and down them stairs at least 20 goddamn times if you didn't do what he told you to do. But Walter was a very, very, very talented wrestler and a very good teacher. I owe all my wrestling life to him, But we'll talk about that when we get to the career.
Psychology. I think Walter was a good psychological in his wrestling days.
Right.
He knew how to work the crowd. He knew how to get you in the palm of his hand and mold you. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
He didn't have to do much. The smallest little thing, he knew how to control you.
Well, like you could be sitting in a chair somewhere at a restaurant, and you're gonna be sitting at the table over there, and they'll mention the name Kowalski, and people look to listen. They'll get into that. And it's amazing. And Walter was a stone cold vegetarian. He everything. He was. But I'll tell you one thing: for a guy his age, he'll tell you in a goddamn knot. He knows stuff, which is, like I said earlier, the talent. You can't lose that talent. You got to keep it going. No talent whacking somebody with a chair.
He ripped the guy's guts out one time, didn't he, with his stomach claw? I remember hearing that when I was a kid from adults used to believe that.
Eric, he ripped his
ear
off.
Yeah.
His ear off.
But that's the stories you always heard. I remember, I think he ripped the guy's ear off, and I think he ripped the guy's guts out.
That's what actually made Walter famous, is when he knocked off that guy's ear. I mean, the guy's ear was, all
cauliflowered
and calcified and everything. It didn't take much to rip it off, and like Walter took the guy's ear off, and that's what kind of made him. And people today still talk about that.
Yep.
So it's all about setting an impression that gives you your next job, that gives you your next career, gives you your next booking, things like that. There's a lot to it other than just learning how to wrestle. Psychological part of the business.
And that was in the late 50s, early 60s, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't ever remember hearing him say it in an interview, having to say it. Like, I ripped it. He never even brought it up, and it was always talked about.
Yeah.
He may have, I don't remember it.
Well, like the guys from Primal, and the guys from NEWA, and I'll mention them both at the same time. None of these guys have, I should say 99% of the guys didn't have any formal training. They just got in there, put a gimmick together, and started trying moves on one another. That can be very, very dangerous. I remember when Darren Drozdorf, Puke, when he got hurt,
D-Lo, yeah.
The guy's still in a fucking wheelchair. He'll never get out of it, and that shit happens. And for somebody to get in a ring who hasn't had any formal training, the odds of them getting really seriously hurt have just tripled.
Common today. Look at Kenny Omega today. It's like they think he's the best. He's never been formally trained. He can't throw a work punch.
Yeah.
He's great at these flips and these, certain stuff, but look, have him throw a work punch.
You know something? You land the wrong way. You don't understand what I'm talking about.
There's very few guys today that can throw a good punch.
Right. You're absolutely right.
It's the most basic thing, but they can do 900 flips. They can jump from the sky, but they can't do a punch.
Right. And if they go into a match and they're flipping around for a half an hour, there's nothing spectacular about it. It becomes routine.
Right.
It becomes routine where these guys are going to be jumping around the ring, doing this and doing that. When you do something different that nobody's seen before, that's where you get the wow from.
Right.
And then when one person gets the wow from it, the next matches they're going to do it. Then the next show they're going to do it. The next year they're going to do it. And it doesn't become spectacular anymore. It becomes routine. And, so you kind of have to learn how to reinvent yourself every single time.
So you want to be a heel and get heat today? Sit down on a headlock. Sit down on an arm bar.
It's something like that,
Keep doing it, looking at the fans going, I'm not giving it to you.
Guys used to reach in their tights and everything, throw rock salt, not that with rock salt, but throw some in their face and everything where the referee didn't see him. Nobody does that anymore.
Look at Lawler reaching into his tights, nothing in his hand, but he'd pretend like he did.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
Over and over and over. He's got something in his tights.
Yeah.
I don't got nothing.
You know where I'm coming from.
Lawler did it for 40 years, over they sold out the Mid-South Coliseum every week for like 20, same place every week, 20,000 fans. Nobody could do that today. And they laugh at Lawler. Oh, he's a joke. Yeah. You sell out one building, 20,000 fans every week after week, not month, not year, week.
Well, you have to take into consideration that this is a different generation that we live in today.
Right.
And the days of doing things then are changed. And just like everything else in our world changes. Some people like change, some people don't. I mean, but some changes need to be, not changed. They need to stay the way they are, and that's the law of the land. I mean, because if you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Yeah. What's just funny when they talk about drawing and selling? It's like, well, yeah, they draw what, once a week, once a month. Yeah. These guys are drawing. They're only drawing 5,000 or 10,000 fans, but they were doing it 7 days a week. Added up, and not only that, they were doing it in every town. Add up every town.
I mean, even like people say to me, do you mind doing like a guest appearance? I wouldn't mind doing them every now and then. I've got a lot going on in my life now where I'm busy all the time, but I wouldn't mind just going out to do a guest appearance on a show and things like that, and and maybe guest refereeing a show or something like that, and we'll see what happens.
All right, well, let's get back to this. We keep getting off track.
All right, I got 2 more minutes, and then I got action.
4 minutes?
No, it's 4:45 now. I get by 5 o'clock.
This is the Hardcore Nightmare, the original Beast of New England. I'm here to tell you, follow my boy on Chop Videos. Hit the like button. You can find me on @BullDread on Instagram, or Michelangelo Kalo, a.k.a. the original Beast of New England, on Facebook, or @BullDread on Twitter. Woo! This is the Hardcore Nightmare, the original Beast of New England. I'm here to tell you, follow my boy on Chop Videos. Hit the like button. You can find me on @BullDread on Instagram, or Michelangelo Kalo, a.k.a. the original Beast of New England, on Facebook, or @BullDread on Twitter. Woo!
won't give no respect. I don't say where there's no respect. I can't seem to find no respect. Free as sin, never win, 'cause you're through within. Free of pain, though there's nothing left to gain. I can't get no respect. I won't give no respect. I don't see where there's no respect. I can't seem to find no respect. So learn the rules to others as they do for you. Respect is a game people play, and in the end, we all must pay.
Hello, wrestling fans. This is Brickhouse Baker, 2008 New England Hall of Famer. I need you people to do me a favor. I need you to go to Chop's Video and subscribe to his YouTube channel. Again, that's Chop's Videos. Go check this out because this guy's got some really good stuff from back in the day. Peace out.